I understand your concerns, but this proposal is our best option.
Best option. We've been over this. It's too risky, and you know it.
The CEO's daughter called me legacy bloat and dropped my ID badge in the trash. She thought she was shedding an expense. She didn't realize she was handing our lead investor the legal justification to seize control of the entire company. My value was reassessed to zero, she said. The consequences? They now owe $45 million in breach penalties, and the woman they fired is the only person the new owners will talk to. Welcome to Karma Chronicles, your ultimate destination for thrilling revenge stories, where corporate hubris always meets its match. If you believe in accountability, hit that subscribe button and share this story. Your value has been reassessed to zero. That's what Ivy Brandt said. The words weren't a statement of fact. They were an act of calculated cruelty. She dropped my ID badge into a small, black plastic trash bin next to her desk, like it was a used tissue. Her new assistant, a 22-year-old finance bro named Tucker with a greasy pompadour and no soul, snorted a laugh behind her as if she'd just delivered a killer punchline on late-night TV. Ivy, the acting CEO, reclined in the supple leather chair that used to belong to her father, Mitchell Brandt, CEO Emeritus, now off playing retirement golf in some equally overpriced hallucination. She twirled a heavy Mont Blanc pen with one hand, scrolling her phone with the other. "You've been with the company since what, the faxes and floppy disks era?" she drawled, firing me as a casual item on her digital to-do list between manipulate stock price and order oat milk. I didn't answer. I just stood there, holding my hands calmly behind my back, the way I used to when leading critical investor briefings, the way I did when the servers caught fire one winter and we had to route $6 million in contracts overnight. The way you stand when you know something they don't, something fundamental and terrifying. "Look," Ivy continued, clearly irritated by my silence. "Streamlining, shedding legacy bloat. You're smart, Marissa. I'm sure you'll land somewhere." She tossed a thin manila envelope across the desk like a frisbee. It skidded to a stop next to a half-eaten acai bowl. "HR's prepared a generous exit package," she added, already opening a new Slack window. "Security will walk you out in 10. I bent to pick up the envelope, not because I cared about the contents. I wanted to see if she would flinch when I straightened back up. She didn't. Her eyes stayed glued to her phone. That's when I saw it. Framed slightly crookedly behind her, like a punchline from the universe, was the original Everlock Capital Investor Covenant, the one I had helped draft 12 years ago in a windowless conference room with bad coffee and 3 lawyers who secretly hated each other. My name was still on it. On bottom right, Marissa Klein, Designated Material Personnel. I allowed myself a smirk, just for a second. Tucker tried to open the door for me, but the handle stuck. I opened it myself, just like I had personally opened the last 5 compliance renewals, the last 4 strategic partnerships, and the back door to our biggest investor when our CFO botched a Q4 forecast. I walked out without a word, didn't grab the gratitude basket HR had perched like a landmine by the elevator, and simply kept walking. The ride down felt like descending through layers of noise-canceled corporate nonsense, buzzwords, branded values, and Slack emojis. By the time I hit the lobby's revolving doors, the noise had been replaced by silence, crisp, final, and absolute. I went home, poured myself a glass of the dusty Cabernet I'd been saving for the day. I either retired or snapped, and powered up my personal workstation. This wasn't the work laptop I left untouched on my desk. This was the real gear, my vault, my archive, the encrypted server that had lived quietly beneath my kitchen sink since the first time a board member tried to override compliance in 2014. I'd built it out of habit, caution, and the gut instinct that the real danger wasn't a hostile takeover, it was Ivy with a signature stamp and a blank agenda. Password accepted. Biometric scan confirmed. I navigated to my legal folder and opened the most recent copy of the funding covenant. There it was, Same clause, same font, same signature from the managing partner of our lead investor, Everlock Capital. Marissa Klein, designated material personnel, Clause 14C. I scrolled to the margin notes. The last red line comment from Anderson, my attorney, still sat there. Any involuntary termination triggers breach remedy. Mandatory investor notification required within 72 hours. I leaned back, remembering the exact day we wrote that clause. Blake, the fund's lawyer, hadn't trusted our former CFO. I hadn't trusted the former CEO, so we compromised in writing. If they ever try to cut you out, Blake had said, tapping his pen on the draft, this clause guarantees consequences. I closed the file, picked up my phone, and called Anderson. He answered on the second ring. No hello, just silence, the kind that means he was already reading the situation. Activate the red line file, Anderson, version 3.7. A pause, then, understood, Marissa. Execution initiated. While Ivy and her espresso interns were busy gamifying leadership, I had built an entire career on knowing where the bodies were buried and exactly which footnote would resurrect them. I watched my personal inbox begin to ping. One message from legal, one from the investor liaison, and one from a former competitor. The game had started. I hadn't moved a single piece, and already they were scrambling. It took less than 48 hours for Ivy to start dancing on my grave. She posted a company-wide Slack announcement titled Phase 1, Operational Evolution, complete with a fire emoji and a headshot of herself holding a mug that said, Boss Babe. She introduced her best friend, Layla Montclair, as the new head of operations, a woman whose previous experience was at a lifestyle brand that sold Bluetooth-enhanced yoga mats. By noon that day, the junior managers were in open panic mode. I got the texts. Hey, do you know where the supplier compliance tracker lives? Can't find anything post Q2. Legal's asking who handles the funding traceability log now. I didn't respond. The quarterly audit deadline for the Everlock Capital Fund came and went with no submission. Ivy either didn't know or didn't care. At precisely 9:02 a.m. on Monday, every member of the C-suite received an email from Everlock's oversight team. Subject line, urgent. Compliance review requested. Personnel change. Notification received. Per Clause 14C, please prepare supporting documentation for immediate audit. The silence across the company channels was palpable. Ivy's Monday momentum update never arrived. The moment my name was removed without investor consultation, that clause snapped into effect like a bear trap. Then the boardroom doors flew open. In walked the man himself, Mitchell Brandt, the CEO emeritus. No flight announcement, no smile, just a trench coat over a charcoal suit and a look that said something had gone terminally wrong in paradise. He didn't sit. He just stood at the head of the table, knuckles braced on the wood. "What the hell is going on?" he demanded. Gregory, the CFO, a thin man with permanent flop sweat, stammered, "There's been a triggering event, sir. The covenant. Clause 14C. Mitchell's eyes narrowed. "What the hell is Clause 14C? She fired Marissa," Gregory whispered. The words hit the air like a gunshot. Mitchell didn't blink. "You fired who?" His voice ricocheted off the glass walls and down the hallway. Ivy tried to interrupt. "We're streamlining. Legacy mindset." "Did you read the funding agreement before you gutted your backbone?" Mitchell slammed both palms on the table. "You're the interim CEO. This company is still bound to Everlock's investor controls." He slammed the original covenant document onto the table and read Clause 14C aloud. Designated material personnel, Marissa Klein, termination without investor consultation constitutes breach of agreement and forcible asset forfeiture or immediate control assumption. "Do you know what that means, Ivy?" She crossed her arms. "It means they'll bluff. They always do." "They're already here," Mitchell roared. 3 Everlock auditors in the damn lobby and a formal notice of compliance breach on my phone. He picked up the folder and waved it like a warrant. You just handed the keys to a nuke and pressed launch because you thought it was a TikTok filter. The boardroom was still smoldering from Mitchell's explosion when the real fire walked in. Brandon Fields, the lead auditor for Everlock Capital, appeared with counsel, tone so dry it could sand wood. He walked calmly to the head of the table, ignoring Ivy, and placed a thick, dog-eared document in the center, the funding covenant marked up in red ink. This clause, Brandon said, voice even, Clause 14C, was triggered automatically. Per terms of contract, your firm has 72 hours to either reinstate Ms. Klein in full capacity or settle the breach penalty. He looked directly at Ivy. Failure to do either will result in immediate enforcement of seizure protocol. We've already pre-authorized it. He then delivered the final blow. We've also frozen draw access from Everlock managed funds pending resolution. We've issued a provisional hold on your Series D release. The weight of the $45 million penalty hung in the air like a guillotine. Ivy sank into her chair, her frozen smile finally crumbling. Then the internal email arrived, sent 2 weeks ago by Ivy. Subject line, cutting the deadwood before Q4. Body. We need to clean house before Q4 gets here. Starting with Marissa. She's deadwood and we need fresh blood before the investor summit. The legal team confirmed the nightmare. Everlock now had a direct written admission of retaliatory termination, with foreknowledge of the clause violation. "Delete it!" Ivy screamed, her face draining to the color of printer paper. "It's already on their servers," General Counsel Rachel Yoon said quietly. "Metadata timestamped. There's no deletion now." Mitchell stood in the middle of it all like a condemned king watching his court eat itself. Then he said the words that settled the dust. "We need to call Marissa." The room fell silent. "You fired the one person who could have prevented this. Now you better pray she'll save you from it." At precisely 8:03 a.m. on Thursday, the formal breach notice arrived. It expired in 50 minutes. Brandon Fields entered and pushed a folder toward Mitchell. Option 1, wire $45 million to satisfy the covenant breach penalty in full. Option 2, surrender operational control per the forfeiture clause, immediate effect. Gregory, the CFO, looked up from his tablet, his eyes full of static. "We can't cover it. Try $27 million short." Brandon nodded. "Then Everlock will assume control, as stipulated." He pushed a folder toward Mitchell. "Sign there. Acknowledgement of transition." Ivy lunged across the table. "I'll call Marissa. I'll double her offer. She's not vindictive." "She already declined," Mitchell said, signing the acknowledgement. The weight of that sentence broke something in Ivy. Brandon snapped the binder shut. Everlock will begin immediate deployment of transitional personnel. Oversight and compliance will be advised exclusively by MK Advisory Group. Murmurs, soft, stunned, defeated. Marissa Klein has accepted advisory rights. All communications with Everlock must route through her office moving forward. The room was collapsing in real time, not with a bang, but with the quiet clicking of dominoes laid years ago by a woman they thought was expendable. Marissa never came back through the front door. She didn't need to. She owned the building now. On the wall outside the boardroom, a maintenance tech was finishing the install. A new nameplate, etched into dark marble, backlit, MK Advisory Group, Strategic Control HQ. Compliance Oversight, Marissa Klein. She didn't need the CEO chair. She didn't need the title. She just needed the legal leverage and the cold satisfaction of watching the system she built restore her value, with $45 million worth of interest.